Welcome to my YouTube channel, Rick Surowicz Watercolor. At any time during the video, you can click on the link in the lower right hand corner to subscribe to my channel. If you want to see more of my videos or learn more about my online courses and workshops, you can click on the link that appears at the end of the video. Hi, this is Rick. I'm here in my studio, and this is an easy landscape intended for beginners. Going to keep it very simple subject, simple drawing. And the colors in it are going to be fairly straightforward, but a little bit of mixing involved. And this is going to be just kind of a quick, kind of a little mini painting of what you might see along the hillside of a mountain or the mountainside. And I'm working on 5.5 by 7.5 inch sheet of paper, so not too big. You can see by my hand it's a smaller sheet. It fits nicely in a little 8 by 10 mat and an 8 by 10 frame. And create just a nice little painting. So like I said, not too involved with the drawing or anything, simple subject. So if you can envision you're on a hillside or a mountain and you're looking and you just see some trees cascading down, you can see the sky. And I'm just keeping this very simple. We're not getting real involved. So about a third of the way down from the top on the left side, I'm going to make a mark here. And then about, let's say, about a quarter of the way up on this side, and in just a little bit, I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to draw just a very simple line to about there. And then I'm going to draw another line, maybe about here, just to give me an idea of where to start. So you can see this starts about 2/3 or a third down from the top and goes at an angle here to about there. And this starts at about halfway down, and just as another kind of mirrors that, but not going quite as far. So two very simple just marks, right? So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to paint a sky, and I'm going to use some cerulean blue. Just plain cerulean blue, and add some water to it. Mix it on the mixing area on my palette. I want to make sure I have enough to cover what I'm doing. And I'm just going to envision a kind of a partly cloudy sky. So I'm just coming across. I'm going to kind of create this. I want to reinforce the feeling of this slant, the slope of the mountain, and the kind of coming this way. So I'm going to maybe pick up a little of that in the sky wash I'm putting down here. I'm going to leave it, it's going to break up a little bit. And I'm going to stop on my line there, because I'm going to put a bright color over here. If I put this blue over it, it's going to really dull what I'm doing. So now I'm going to add some clear water. Sometimes I use a spray bottle of this, but for this demonstration, I know everybody doesn't have one. I'm gonna blot that a little bit with a tissue, just to kind of make this feel like a kind of a partly cloudy day. And add a little bit back in here and there. And this is going to be kind of a vignette. So it's not going to fill the complete frame of reference. It's just going to touch in different areas and leave some of the white of the paper elsewhere. So I'm just going to paint that, just kind of fill that flow. And I'm going to take a little more color. So it's a little, just that cerulean blue gets a little stronger in a few areas. And remember, watercolor dries about 30% or so lighter. So what you see here will be lighter when it's actually dry. All right, I'm not going to fuss with that too much more. And that just gives me the feeling of a sky. And what I want to do is pick up any excess moisture with my brush. If I just take a damp brush and just touch it, if it's a good brush, it'll just pick up some of that excess moisture. And now I'm just going to dry it, and I'm going to come in and start to paint a tree line. So that's dry, and I don't need this blue anymore. I'm going to get that off my palette. This is how I just like to work. I'm mixing the two mixing areas on my palette, and I clean it when I'm ready to do a big color change. And now I'm going to take, I want a yellow green, kind of a bright yellow green. So you can get that any number of ways. I'm taking hands of yellow and permanent green light at the moment. And I'm going to add a little of this is quinacridone gold. And I want a little more green. So this is kind of, add a little sap green into that. So this is my mountain, the side of the mountain. I'm going to paint right along the line that I had drawn, the first one. I'm going to take a little of that gold and add to it, so a little variety. And again, this is kind of a vignette, so it's just going to touch, but it's not going to quite go off the paper. I might add a little more sap green, just to give me a touch of a richer color somewhere. Okay, so now there's my mountainside, and I'm going to dry that. I'm building this up in layers, so let me dry what I have down there. So this is dry, and now I'm going to put some, just a kind of a tree line that's right on the edge. So if there's a line of trees cascading down this mountaintop, you're going to see some of them there. Now I'm not trying to paint individual branches or leaves so much, just it's just the whole shape of that tree line. And I'll take some of this sap green and maybe a little of this gold, and I'm going to add a little of this. This is pyrrole red, any number of reds you could use. It helps neutralize and make it a more natural green. I have a little gold in that. So I'm going to now, what I'm going to do is just, actually I want to get a little, this is royal blue, it's a dark blue, but I don't need much. I want to get a little bit darker mixture there too. So these are trees that are just kind of, on the mountainside here and cascading down. And it's really a larger shape than I'm painting. It's a collection of trees. You don't try and paint this by just painting a bunch of individual trees. It's just not going to look right. And you don't want this to be the same everywhere. So, a little higher in some areas, a little lower. The spacing, you want a variety of spacing. So maybe I'll have a break here. And I'll pick up the trees here. And keep in mind, even though we're at a slope, the trees are going up. So don't lose sight of which way's up. So these are my trees, and I change color a little bit here and there as I go, and this is now a little gold. And I'm going to take a little cooler. That has a little more blue in it. And I'm just going to put a couple, let's see, I'm going to put a tree. Just kind of the suggestion of a tree there. And now I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go back up here. Trying to maintain this edge because this suggests that we're kind of looking over the edge of the contour of the mountain. And these are kind of on the other side of the downside of where we're at, from this area here. And I just knocked my camera. Let's see if we can fix that. There we are. And So these are intended to be, you know, a little bit in the distance. I'm going to create a little more spacing here. I'm going to kind of a tree out here solo. Only that one is a little, you know, add a little more value to it, just a little bit. So there's my tree line that's coming down. Now let me dry this, and I'm going to put some trees here in the foreground. So everything's dry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as kind of the next kind of the line that describes the contour of this mount coming down. But I'm going to put some bigger trees that are going to overlap some of what I've got there, and I'll be working with a darker value. So I'm going to take some of this sap green. Some of that sap green. I'll take some of my gold. I'm going to take a little of this red. A little more green. I'll take a little of this, some more of this royal blue. So now I have quite a variety there, some golds and greens, but they're more natural greens. I've added that red to it, which helps that out. And now I'm gonna bring in a bigger indication of a bigger tree. So I haven't drawn any of this. You know, I'm just painting this in. Just kind of tree shapes, kind of symbols of trees. You know, and these are gonna overlap what I've already got there, and I'm painting with much darker value paint. So I'm not going to see, you know, the lines and things coming through. If I did, I'd get a little bit more pigment in my mixture on my palette. Sometimes I like to take and add a little bit of red in there. And now this is going to come down. I'm actually going to cover some of what I have here. I need this to be darker. So these start to come together. And now I'm going to switch to a bigger brush because that's just too little, too fine a point to do what I want to do now. Be more expressive with my brush strokes. Like I said, this is a vignette, so it's not going to come to the edge. It's going to, but you still have to be aware of the shapes that you create when you're going to do a vignette like this. Get a little more gold, a little red, get a little of those colors in here. Take a little moisture off my brush. Create some broken edges intentionally. And let's see, a few shapes there. I'll take that off there. Right, let me dry this. So this is all dry. And what I'm going to do now is take a nylon brush that's just damp, and I'm going to lift out a little bit. So I just agitate that paint, and it lifts out. if I wanted to, you probably wouldn't see it, but I could lift out a little bit here if I just wanted to repeat that in a few spots, just to help tie to that. And I'm going to take a little bit of paint and just cover it up in a few spots, because branches would be covering it up. Now let me dry it, and I'm going to show you how you can create some texture if you wanted to. So that's dry. Now let's say I just wanted to create a little texture in there for interest. You can take a fine mist spray bottle like this, or and just spritz it a little, and take a tissue, dry tissue, and just spritz a little bit of water. Kind of turn my head at an angle so I can see it, and I just take this and gently hit it kind of at an angle. I'm doing it lightly, but you start to get this texture in there. The other way you can do that, if you don't have a spray bottle, is to take your brush, dip it in water, and tap it on the back of your hand, and that'll give you some splatter. That will do the same thing. This is just a technique you can do to create a little texture. And let's see. So that's it. Very simple composition. Like I said, simple drawing. The only drawing was to indicate where the slopes were, and everything else was done with a brush. It was just a little mountain scene that you could put in a little 8x10 mat and frame up. So I hope you have fun experimenting with something like this and enjoy.